that's when I feel I honed my skills because I was obsessed with guitar. He can sing Scorpions, he can sing anything, and full voice, badass. And I go, give me his number. His name's Jack Russell, right? Jack Russell, Whittier Wright, Shoots Live In Made. Ray Tuscan from Capitol Records came down to the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano and signed us to Capitol that night. Here we are. We're being honest with ourselves, and now the fans love us. Actually, we finished the record before once that song, Once Bitten, Twice Shy, came into the mix. We had the loyal fan base, but as far as the days of selling tons of records were going away. After the accident, it was the worst thing to witness. He was literally falling down at the shows, and he couldn't go on anymore. In 2006, I went to Betty Ford and went out and just drank like immediately. I called my wife. I was in Utah, and I just said, I told her I drank. It was like the first time I think I've ever been honest about drinking. And I wanted to be sober more than anything. I've worked with Jani Lane, and I sent him daily meditation and prayer. He got some downtime, and obviously it turned out fatal. Working with other alcoholics, I've been doing that 12 years.
You telling your story, I'm sure people are grasping onto that, and it gives them hope.
The hair metal guru from Warren to Crew. The hair metal guru. Never forget Charlie too.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru, and holy shit, look who I got sitting next to me on the screen. It's Mark Kendall, lead guitarist and founder of the multi-platinum rock band Great White, who I freaking love. They put out 13 studio albums, not to mention compilations and live releases, and are still performing concerts all across the country today. But outside of Great White, Mark is known for being out front and open about his sobriety. And people who follow the channel know that I had my own battle with addiction years ago. I've been sober since 2004. But Mark, I've been following how you've been helping people with your story and helping people who battle with addiction. You have an amazing tell, and I'm so glad you're here to tell it. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony. Good to be here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to get into your story about sobriety, and I want to talk about Great White and what you guys are doing now. But I'd first, just like to know, like, I look at people. Well, not that I'm on your level, but people like us, they always knew that music was something different for you. It was a little bit different for I knew it mattered more when I was younger. So when did you start playing guitar, and when did you know, like, hey, this is different for me versus the average person who likes music?
Well, I grew up, pretty normal childhood, mom and dad, and I had my little brother, but my dad was a musician and my mom sang. And so that was the only thing that I think was a little different than some of the other kids, their parents that I knew. You know what I mean? They're just like the regular Joe parents. So there was a lot of music in the house all the time. Right. So at a very young age, even like 5 years old, I used to sing along with my parents' records. And I was singing in key. My mom had pointed that out, that I'm singing in key. So I think I kind of, through the DNA or whatever, I could just hear music real good. And so I could hear the melodies and all that real young. So that was, I think, part of my gravitation toward the music. And I've told the story before, but the first song I remember hearing and singing along to and playing it over and over was a song called Girl from Ipanema, right? It's just that ba-ba-da-da-da, and that something just made me go crazy when I heard that song and that chick's voice.
Right.
So right away, I kind of maybe wasn't thinking about it then, but later, the emotion you can get from listening to music, it's like it actually creates a feeling, and it made me feel good. So I played again, and again and again, because I go, man, I want to feel good all the time. I'm just going to keep playing this song. So my dad was a jazz guy, so all his stuff was, the only thing I remember from his albums that had singing was this guy, Louis Armstrong,
Yep.
who was, daddy. I just remember his voice was really radical, and he played horn, but most of the stuff was all jazz. My mom had all the old singers, the Dionne Warwicks and Ella Fitzgerald and all that kind of stuff. So it really hard to relate to that, but occasionally she had Barbara Streisand and stuff like that. So People and songs, that I could sing along and get a vibe to. And then I realized there's music all around me. My friends played music at their house. So when I'd go over their house, they were playing like the Standells. I was hearing songs like Pipeline, Gloria, Wipeout,
Yeah.
Secret Agent Man and stuff like that. But when I was a young boy, I think I was like 9 years old, there was a band that played across the street, and I used to go watch them play through this little window on the side of a garage. And one day this guy was playing with his teeth. It was a bass player, and it just made me go crazy. I had to have a guitar, so I went running home, asked my dad to get me a guitar. And he said, maybe for Christmas, right? He goes, but you got to stick with it. So I stayed true and stuck with it for a year. And I was learning chords from neighbors. There was a couple neighbors that were advanced. My next door neighbor's dad, he had a Gibson Melody Maker, and
Right.
he showed me like 4 chords. And the songs that I learned when I got those 4 chords is like every song seemed to have those chords in it. Like Gloria was like EDA, ba da 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 ba da. So I was able to put 4 songs together. Then there was a surf band behind me, and I used to go watch them practice. And this guy Ron was a guitar player, and I took a lesson from him, but he wasn't showing me what I wanted to learn, but I probably should have learned it,
Right.
which was kind of the Tom Dooley, I guess you call them jingles,
Sure.
But at this point, I'm hearing the Stones and Beatles on the radio.
Yep.
So I want to learn how to do that, right? I don't want to do this jingly stuff. So I ended up not hanging out with that guy except for one lesson, and it just moved on from there. The first records my dad got me were, he goes, these are popular groups. I was heard they're popular groups, right? And it was Hendrix, Cream, and the Doors.
Oh, geez, that's a
You
good
know what
place
I mean?
to start.
Yeah. And the funny thing is all legendary guitar players, right? Eric Clapton, Hendrix, and Robbie Krieger, greatest ever. I mean, they're legends. But I wasn't listening to the guitar that much. I still listened the way I listened to like Elvis Presley, and because my babysitter used to bring Elvis Presley records. So that's the first time I ever heard that.
Yep.
I'm going, holy, I never heard a voice like this guy.
Yeah.
And I was singing along to that. So when I'm listening to Hendrix and the Doors, I'm just singing along. I'm just digging the vocal, right? I'm not really, the other stuff didn't really have my full attention, but I loved all the songs on all those records. I mean, it was Cream, Disraeli, the Gear. So we're talking, Sunshine of Your Love and all that. That's badass. So yeah, I just kind of, then my dad said he really, once I got, I played for a year straight, like every day. I was still playing baseball and doing other stuff kids do, riding mini bikes, getting in trouble and all that. But I played the guitar like every day. So I said I wanted electric. I got to have electric guitar. And so my dad said maybe for Christmas. So then like 2 days before Christmas, he sits me on the bed and he goes, Mark, things didn't go as planned this year, and I'm not going to be able to. But maybe for your birthday, I can get the guitar, right? So
Right.
I didn't want to complain because the last time I threw a fit about something. I didn't get to go to a Dodger game, and that kind of stuck with me. It's like, back in those days, I don't know how they do it today, but they took your privileges away.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
And they didn't have to beat the crap out of me. Just don't let me go to a Dodger game, and I'm probably not going to do whatever it was that kept me from doing that.
Right.
So I didn't say anything. Okay, Dad, no problem. Maybe for my birthday then. And then Christmas morning, there it was, a guitar and amp, right? So this friend of mine that I met at school, his parents got him. He had a Fender Mustang and a Fender Twin Reverb. Like, I thought his parents were millionaires. I'm just going, holy crap! How can they afford this badass gear? Because I got a K guitar, which played way better than the acoustic I originally got. It was a nightmare to play, but I was able to learn on it. And he got me a K amp. So I learned, Gloria, Pipeline, Wipeout, and Secret Agent Man. I had these 4 songs. And this guy was kind of a beginner too. So we were putting 2 guitar parts together. And we ended up wheeling our amps to school, and we played for the 4th grade class. And we played 4 songs. And the 5th grade class came in our class, and we played these 4 songs. And then I remember they were filing out after we finished our last song that we knew. And so we played Pipeline again. that was the outdoor. But yeah, so it just went on from there,
So that was the first time where you had like an audience and you're like, holy shit, like people like this.
Yeah, we took our amps to school. Say back then, you could walk by yourself to school. Nothing's gonna happen. So we didn't have our parents drive us to school. We took our amps to school in a red wagon that Kurt, this other guitar player guy, had, and just wheeled our shit, into the classroom and did our big first show. And they cheered after the songs. We were like in heaven. We couldn't believe that this is going down. It was so badass.
Totally.
And I'd practiced for a year. I had these 4 songs pretty good, and we had 2 guitar parts. Because Pipeline had 2 guitar parts. And the other guy playing the rhythm. So we had those parts together. And I remember one time my dad came home and he goes, Mark, I got another popular group for you. They're called the Yardbirds, right? And it was just a 45. And he got me a record player that had a speaker on the record player. It just only played records and I think 45s. It had this little thing that went on the pole.
Right.
And I learned For Your Love. It's the first time I learned a song from listening to it instead of somebody showing me how it goes.
Sure.
And I actually picked it up. I didn't get it perfect, but I found out later I wasn't playing the chords quite right. I think there was a minor chord in there, but good enough to play a little bit.
So,
but
did you envision yourself being a singer first?
No. Well, no, I loved playing the guitar, but there was something about the singing and songs that got more of my attention.
Sure.
In the beginning,
Sure.
There's something about hearing Morrison sing and hearing Hendrix. I think I heard the guitar, but I wasn't like, God, I got to learn that song on guitar. I was just singing with them. Man, this song, Hey Joe's bad. Hey Joe, I don't know why,
Yep.
but that would be important later because when I was about 14, I saw this Woodstock concert on TV,
Yep.
and it was Carlos Santana playing. They were playing Soul Sacrifice. I learned that later, but he grabbed a note, and I swear it was like, if I let this note go, I will die. You know, it was just like the full blown, like he was holding this note for his life or something. And when I saw that, I'm just going, holy crap. How can anybody, you know, like have that much passion just playing that note? It was like, you know, he's making this face, and it was just, I don't know, something about that. Just, I asked my parents if I could change my name to Carlos at one point. You know, that's it. I mean, that's how into it I was. I couldn't believe this guy. And I had a friend that, this was when we moved to El Monte, California, which then there was bands like everywhere. It was unbelievable how many bands there were. And I started jamming with this guy, and he was into Santana too. And we were like playing Santana. He had a reel-to-reel recorder. I remember where I recorded the rhythm. He was more advanced, so he played all the solo stuff. And he was actually jamming with people. And we played Oh You Come Ba on a reel-to-reel. And I did pretty good, you know, for red light fever. You know, I'm supposed to be scared to death, and I did feel a little tension, but I got through it pretty good. And so that was another experience where I just paying attention to guitar players and band situations. He's jamming with drummers and stuff like that. And but at 10 years old, I was hearing a drummer down the street just practicing by himself. So I talked my mom into going over there with me and see if he would, you know, mercifully play with me and Kurt. Sure. Just so we could play with a real drummer.
Sure.
And the guy was sweet. His name was Jim. He was like 20 years old probably, and we're like 10. So this is absolute mercy on his part, right? But he said, no, he said, first I thought you guys were coming over here to complain about the noise. And my mom goes, no, my boy and his friend, they play guitar and they know a few songs, and they were wondering if they could ever play with you somehow. He goes, no problem. We went to his next Saturday, went in his garage and set up, and we played Gloria for like 10 minutes, you know. And this dude, he was doing all the punches and stuff, ba, 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 you know. And I'm just like, we're just having a heart attack. We can't believe we're playing with the real drummer, man. Right. That was the most intense. And here's the funny thing. After that day, I never saw the guy again, and I never heard him playing. Isn't that weird? It was like, I was hearing those drums every day, and after we played with him, where's Jim? I'm not hearing him today. You know, it was weird. I don't know. I never saw the guy again.
Wow.
It was almost like kind of surreal in a way, you know, like some guy came down from heaven and just, the Lord let him play with us or something. And then he went back, you know. Right. I'm not serious, man. We're talking Twilight Zone here. But yeah, once I moved to El Monte, that kind of changed the game for me, because we were going, by the time I was 15 or almost 15, we were going to parties and seeing bands in backyards, and pretty soon I had a drummer and a bass player, and we were learning like Troward and, you know, just cover tunes and playing a lot, like at the beach with no singer. Yeah. We're playing in Bolsa Chica Beach with no singer, with a bunch of chicks in their bathing suits at night, you know, right by the beach, just jamming for hours, you know. And there wasn't a lot of singers in Huntington Beach. But in El Monte, there was a lot of singers. And when I moved out, I was 17, almost 18. I had a singer like immediately. It was just like, you know, and before we knew it, this guy got me a job in a potato chip factory with my bass player, and for Lay's potato chips. All we did was talk about the songs, what we're going to play in the set that night, you know, and the way we did it, we'd point. we'd point to where if the boss seen us, he thinks we're talking about something to do with the company.
Yeah.
We're pointing to like product, but we're talking about Zeppelin. Get me? so anyways, but we were playing 5 sets a night and working full time at this. We're just putting rolls of potato chips in boxes and saying how much it weighed. I mean,
what clubs were you playing in back then?
We played at when we first started. First, we were playing backyards mostly parties.
Yep.
And then our first place that we played was called Walter Mitty's.
Okay.
This is the place where Van Halen played and a lot of the bands, but you play cover songs. And that we auditioned, and I remember Van Halen stuff was set up. We set up in front of them for our audition, and we got the gig, so yeah, that was and then we started playing around. This was a band, my first band. It was called Zizix.
Okay.
ZZYZX. Another one of the cases where it was a horrible name, but I've never been that good at naming my band. It's just, to me, just the ultimate torture. I can't stand it. Eventually, I just abandoned the idea, and whatever the last name we thought of, that's going to be it.
Right.
I mean, I never went, that's the best name I ever heard. Oh, I love it. But yeah, we just started playing, and then when I was literally, a few years are rolling by here. From 15 to 17, when I was in Huntington Beach, we moved to Huntington Beach. I lived there for almost 3 years.
Yep.
That's when I feel I honed my skills, because I was obsessed with guitar. Yep. I literally would not leave my house without an acoustic, even if I was just going to the store. If I was going to get a pack of cigarettes or getting something to drink, I could not leave my guitar for 15 minutes. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Even though I'd look goofy as hell walking down the street with an acoustic, I didn't care. Right. And so I just practiced so much that I was starting to get my way around the neck fairly decent. But anyways, yeah, when I got in that band, by the time I was 20, the singer in my band was 28 years old, couldn't quite hit the foreigner note, and I was getting a little disheartened with him. And my buddy of mine came and he said he just saw a singer at a party. And he goes, this dude can sing anything. He's kind of young. He's only about 16, I think. But his voice is mature. And he can sing Scorpions. He can sing anything. And full voice, badass. And I go, give me his number. His name's Jack Russell, right? This is my first introduction. And so I get his number, and I call, and he answers. And he told me he was sick. And I must have called him for over 2 weeks. And he was sick every time I called. So I just gave up on it. Yeah. And then one day he called me, and he goes, hey man, sorry, I've been dealing with a bunch of stuff. He goes, but I'd love to get together and see what's up. And I go, well, come audition for my band. So he came down, we did a couple songs, and then we went into this bedroom, and we're sitting there, and he goes, I'm really into doing originals. And I played him 2 songs that I had, a couple ideas. And he goes, dude, if you get rid of that fat dude and that guy with the mustache, man, he goes, let's I'll join your band. And I go, that's just me. You mean you'll join me? He goes, yeah. I go, dude, I'm fully into it because I'm kind of over this anyways.
Sure.
And the next day I got my gear out of there, and it was kind of the seed of, us becoming a partnership and, putting a band around us, So
did you guys have kind of a name? Were you starting to draw crowds? And I'm talking about your band before Jack.
Well, here's what happened. We named our band like 3 or 4 times. I think 3 times we were called Wires, Live Wire, Highway.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
but I only knew Jack for 4 months, and we only did, I think, 2 or 3 shows. It took us a while to get a bass player and get a drummer and stuff. We got a guy called Don Costa
Yep.
and another guy called Tony Richards, and then one day I was painting AM/PM signs. So I'm like 20 years old. Jack's only 17, and I was walking to work, and I see in this newsstand, Jack Russell Whittier Wright shoots live-in made, and I go, Jack Russell. I go, he lives in Whittier. I go, this has to be a coincidence. And I called his mother right there from the liquor store, and I go, tell me that's not Jack Russell that got in that trouble. And she goes, yep, he went and did it this time. I go, are you serious? Because they said he shot a maid in some drug related crime. And I was blown away. Like I said, we were only together 4 months.
Right.
So my singer shoots people. I mean, this is crazy, right? I couldn't believe it. and so then there's follow-up stories, how he's going to get 8 years and all this stuff. So I'm thinking it's new singer time, right?
Right.
But what happened was they cut his sentence in half and then cut it in half again. When he went in and joined all the programs, in it was like a youth authority prison for under 18.
Yep.
And he ended up being in there 18 months. In the meantime, the band was getting tight, and we were doing all originals. We were playing all originals. We called the band Dante Fox.
What?
And we had a chick singer for 6 months.
Okay.
Then she went off and joined George Lynch's band. And then we got this guy that sang like Halford, a guy named Butch. When Jack got out, his dad was telling me he really wants another chance at an audition and all this stuff. And then Jack said, I don't care who you got. I know I'm better or whatever,
Right.
So we gave him an audition, and, of course we took him, and we started playing around. We were by this time we were playing in Hollywood and stuff. We were playing.
Okay.
We had played with the other singers in Hollywood, so we were established enough to where we were playing the Starwood, the Troubadour, and Whiskey, and all that.
Yep.
But the unlikely to make it band. I mean, every ad, our name was always the tiniest possible name in the grouping.
Right.
So I've said it before. It's like the guy in high school that's most likely to be, the superstar. We were the most unlikely. But once Jack got in and we started improving, because we were playing a lot. We'd play free. We didn't care. We just wanted to play all the time, and we're pretty relentless, in self-promotion. Out there with staple guns and posters and going to concerts just to pass out flyers for a show.
Sure.
Like literally doing all the footwork. High schools at 4 a.m, hitting the lockers,
Right.
So back then you couldn't do it from the computer, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have a computer. We didn't have that yet. But so we actually had to leave the house to go let people know what's going on.
Right.
But yeah.
Isn't it? Is it somewhere around this time? Because when I was that Don Dokken gets involved somewhere and pushes your name to Alan Niven. Isn't this around? the beginning of Dante Fox, or when Dante Fox is starting to get his
Almost. It's
Okay.
so Dante Fox has happened. This is Dante Fox, but
Yep.
a couple of things happened. Like Tony, we fired Tony and got another drummer, and then Don Costa quit.
Okay.
Ended up through George Lynch. I got him in Ozzy, so he joined Ozzy.
Yep.
And we just stole a bass player out of a band. And the funny thing is I knew Dawkins from like the mid '70s. We had played with him in my first band. We'd played with Airborne. That was his band back then. They called Airborne.
Right.
He had Bobby Blotzer on drums. Juan Crucier played bass from Rat.
Yep.
And so I knew Don from way back then. He really liked Jack, the singer. So Alan Niven was a guy who worked he was an A&R man at a small label called Enigma, who signed Motley Crue. They had just signed Berlin, and he was looking for a rock band. Well, he had introduced Don Dokken to Peter Mitch and Cliff Bernstein, who were Def Leppard's managers. They're big time Q time, big managing, and they ended up managing Dokken. So when Niven, he wanted a rock band, he asked Don, who's a really good rock band around LA, and he said us, right? So Niven had gone on his own to see us a couple times and was less than thrilled. And so Don said, I think you're missing something. So let's both go see him. And I want to see what you're listening to. And the night they both went, we had played No Doctor on the encore. And for some reason, Niven, that made him understand that we had enough potential to where he could make it work. Because we had a great singer, it sounded good. So he gave us his card, and we went down to the record company the next day, and he thought we had potential. He said, with some work, I think we can make this work. He goes, I'd really like you guys to do an EP, a 5-song EP. And he goes, but your name has got to go. He hated it, dude. He hated our name. And I didn't blame him for hating it. But what happened was, I guess, and I didn't find this out till way later, Jack used to call me Great White live at shows.
Yeah.
But not every show, some shows. But Niven never heard that. He never heard him say, Kendall the Great White. It was more to do with my complexion being the whitest guy on earth, right? But Niven had been out in front of the club that night, and he said that I went by the club in a car and stuck my head out the window and screamed something, and some kid next to him goes, "There goes Great White."
Right.
And that's what made him think of the name. He goes, I like that name way better than Dante Fox.
Right.
He hated that name. But anyway, so that's how we got the name. And we didn't love it at first, but then once we put thought of the shark theme and everything, we go, oh, that's pretty cool now, because the name doesn't say what kind of music you play.
Right.
It's just Great White. We can obviously do anything we want. So we like that element, and we like the idea of a shark kind of as a mascot. It's kind of an edgy image,
Yep.
And so that was the seed of kind of the beginning of the career.
Right.
A lot of ups and downs, a lot of kicked off our first label or dropped, or they basically said they weren't doing nothing with the second record. So we're thinking, why waste music if they're not going to put any marketing dollars into it?
Right.
So we went off and made a record on our own, and kind of didn't give up hope.
Well, you guys had put out that 5-song EP, and if I understand right, it started to get some airplay,
Yeah.
and your crowds start growing. You get signed to
Yeah.
EMI,
Oh
right, and put out the
yeah.
self-titled, the Black Album. Um,
Yeah.
and so, and if that was produced by Michael Wagner, and didn't you guys got some great tours after that, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wagner came over from Germany. We did the EP, and Niven through his connections, and he's a great businessman. He's
Yep.
real smart. He got us on KMET, which was at the time one of the two biggest stations were KMET and KLOS in
Yep.
Los Angeles. So for us to be in rotation with no record deal was pretty unheard of. At
Exactly.
least I'd never heard of it in my years.
Right.
So it was pretty phenomenal. They were playing On Your Knees in rotation on the radio like six
Right.
times a day. So that got the attention of the major labels, and we were able to. We went around for a couple of weeks to every label you can imagine, seeing what they had to offer and all that, and picked. The idea with EMI was they just had Queensryche and a couple other bands, so we thought we'd get more attention.
Sure.
That it wasn't like a label like that had just a zillion artists. Like
Right.
that was the thinking, at least.
Right.
So yeah, we went over to Europe. We went and did a UK tour with Whitesnake, a much different Whitesnake back then.
Right.
With Cozy Pell, I think John Sykes was in the band.
Yep.
Bass player was Neil Murray. Coverdale, of course.
I think this is on the Slide It In tour, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was 83.
Yeah. Okay.
That was 1983, our very first time out of the clubs, and
Yeah.
and so it was a little nerve-wracking, but the crowds were tough over there.
Sure.
That's it wasn't like here where we play a song and everybody says how great we are. Like over there, they're like, impress me, Yank. You know what I mean? So, but it actually helped us. It made us fight harder and play harder and try to improve, and and we kept going back until they said okay. and then we got the Judas Priest tour.
Yes.
That was for 5 or 6 months, and that was a great experience.
Yeah.
So even though we kind of got dropped off our label after that tour, we had gained a fan base.
Right.
From those tours. These people liked us, even though we didn't have a big radio hit. That was part of the issue with the sales was, we didn't have a Rock Me or a big song that's going to be played on MTV every 10 minutes, so commercially we hadn't hit, but I think we struck a nerve with a few fans.
Yeah.
And so all we have to do is do something good. The people are there, if we can get it right one day.
You I think you did some dates with Kiss on the Lick It Up tour. What was that like? I mean, were you a Kiss fan growing up? I'm assuming that when you were a kid and starting out is when they were blowing up in the 70s. So what was that?
Oh,
Kiss
definitely. Yeah. I remember friends of mine playing air guitar to Ace Frehley and stuff,
Yeah.
when I'm like 15. But yeah, that was around 93. We did go on that tour, and it was funny because I was in New York, and I remember I was at the Limelight, which is kind of like a dance place, but a lot of people went there, It's kind of like disco meets party down, kind of a crazy place, right? Like tons of people there.
Yeah.
And I saw a friend of mine, his name's Mark Norton, and I seen him, but there was like 40 people in front of each of us, So I'm like, way back, dude, like, what are you doing in New York type thing, and I get up and I was getting closer and I thought he was saying, I'm on Kiss. And I'm going, he's a guitar player. What is he, a DJ now? I'm thinking it's like a radio station. I had no clue. But I got closer and he goes, no, Mark. He goes, I'm in the band Kiss. I'm in the band. I
Right.
go, fucking no way, dude. And so the next day I went to his apartment and stuff, and we jammed a little bit. Mark was really a good guitar player. If you sit next to Mark and he plays, he will rip your face off. He is such a badass guitar player.
Right.
When he plays live with the band, it comes down a couple notches, but he's still like Satan on guitar, right?
Right.
But he didn't really play on that album. I think it was called Animalized, or it was one of their
Animalized was
records.
the 84 album. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. This was 84. I'm talking. Yep. I'm kind of pedaling backwards a little bit, but yeah, because 93 is when we did the Lick It Up tour or whatever. Yep. No Makeup. They were doing that.
Yep.
But this was it was so good to see Mark. We were kind of peers locally, so to see him in New York was surprising enough. But then when he said I'm using Kiss, I'm like, oh my god, dude, that's so cool. And we were there. We were playing the Madison Square Garden with Judas Priest,
right?
So it was just neat for both of us because we had kind of grown up together, and to see him in Kiss and I'm playing Madison Square Garden, it was kind of fun. But in 93 we did that. I don't know how long it was, not that long, maybe 3 months or so with Kiss playing arenas. But some nights weren't, sold out. I mean, there were pretty good crowds, but maybe 8 or 10,000 some nights. Sure. And I think, as great as Kiss is, that Makeup, it just completes their deal. People don't, and I get, they want to let the music do the talking and all that, but when you strip that away, I think the fans like to look at that, and it's all part of it. So once they put it back on, I think they played like a stadium in Detroit. Immediately their stadium band.
They sold out Tiger Stadium in like 43 minutes when they put the makeup
there
on.
You go. They put the makeup back on. Let's get it back going.
But without the makeup, you're playing like a 2,000 seat club or theater. I mean, that's strange.
Which they have great music. I mean, they have killer songs. They deliver with a lot of energy. It just, they'd already established themselves with that. So people don't want to go and then not see. They want the spectacle. They want the whole shooting match. And Kiss was happy to revisit and give it to him.
Yeah, right. So
cool.
after the debut didn't, doesn't sell as well as EMI Wants, even though Down on Your Knees kind of got some publicity for being kind of controversial.
Yeah.
Right? The lyrics.
Yeah, we love that. Yeah, the Tipper Gore and all that stuff, because the lyrics, they were taking it like serious, like raping and pillaging and other stuff. We're just thinking, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? That, we're just kids writing about fun stuff. And but when they started reading our lyrics on TV, we're like pumping our fists. Going, this is so killer, man. I can't believe read it again. Come on, read it again. It was like, man, this couldn't be better. We really enjoyed that. And then Dee Snider out there waving the rock and roll flag for everybody, it was that was a wonderful situation. It did get us some attention, which, like I said, even though, kind of got dropped and had to go revisit ourselves again, it actually kind of made us, really want to improve. We wanted to get better. We wanted to get it right and hope for a second opportunity. Was there
ever a thought of you know what? We got dropped. We gave it a shot. It didn't happen. Time to move on to something else.
Actually, no, because Jack and I had gone in with the attitude like with nothing to fall back on. It's either full on bums or we're going to make this thing go. And after that happened, I was living with the manager. I was living with Alan Niven, and we were walking on the beach after this went down. And I remember him saying, he goes, "So what do you want to do?" And I go, "Shit, man, I'm like all in on this stuff." And he goes, "Because I want to fight."
Right.
And I go, "Me too, dude. I mean, what can we do? I mean, let's go make another record, and make a better one. See what, use the same connections, all your connections, and let's try to make it go again." And he goes, there's a song that I want you guys to do. He goes, "I think it'd be good." And it was Face the Day. So we put Face the Day on Shot in the Dark, our second record, which was independent. We just got a loan enough to where we could afford to record it. Very cheap, like 15 grand. We did the album quick and got that song on KLOS, and it became the #2 song of the year.
Right.
So, and before we knew it, an A&R man, this was all Niven's doing. He's very good businessman. He has connections in the industry and all that. Ray Tuscan from Capitol Records came down to the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano and signed us to Capitol that night.
Right.
So we're like, second opportunity, man.
Yep.
Shit, this is amazing. And they just put the Capitol stamp on Shot in the Dark, but they wanted us to get back in the studio and make a record. And
it was around, I'm sorry. It was around this time. Like, so now after Shot in the Dark, you're getting ready for Once Bitten, and people will notice a change in your guitar style. It's not the straight ahead, just gritty hard rock. Suddenly you start incorporating this blues influence. Could you, like, how did that change?
Yeah, well, that was my whole influence was guys who played blues. We were really fortunate the first album. We were trying to be like Judas Priest.
Sure.
Even though it didn't sound like that. But really that was the intention. We wanted, and we were young. It was the early part of the writing, and we were just trying to be something.
Sure.
But Alan had heard me play enough guitar to where it really got his attention with the stuff I was playing, just noodling around. Sure. Just playing like I'm Going Home by Alvin Lee, or, he's going, "You should be doing that stuff right there," and he just goes, "You are free. Play from the heart, be honest to yourself, and just whatever comes out, do that. Don't try to be anything. Just be you. Do it. From your influences, play from the heart, whatever." So then it really made me feel free. Like I could just, it made it easy. And that's when we started coming with Rock Me, Lady Red Light. We're coming with some stuff that had potential to hit a nerve out there, and Rock Me got some legs on the radio, and we got hit with it. It was a top 10 single in Billboard, so it really did good. And it's just a funny thing, because here we are, we're being honest with ourselves, and now the fans love us.
Yep.
You get me? There's a lot to say about that. We're being true to ourselves, and now the fans have connected. We actually were able to use that momentum to go out and try to improve more, and stay on the road, and
What was the touring like? Who did you tour with on the Once Bitten tour?
The very first tour was Night Ranger.
Okay.
Yeah, we played with Night Ranger. We had played with Twisted Sister, I believe.
Sure.
Um, can't remember the open. Oh, the opening act with TNT, a band called TNT.
Yep, I remember them.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a pretty good band.
Yeah.
And then trying to remember what. Then after that, I think it was Whitesnake.
Right.
Around '88, a lot of bands were bidding on the Whitesnake tour, and you know we really wanted that tour because there was a huge buzz on Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Coverdale had put a whole nother band around himself, and luckily he gave us that tour, and that was the tour you wanted to be on that year. And we
Absolutely.
toured for months on end and got to the second single, the third, and we sold almost 2 million, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, well over a million.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so that was just amazing to get that second opportunity and have things work. It's funny. I've told the story before to another guy, but I like to watch documentaries a lot. Just
Same.
to hear other bands' stories and see, do they have to struggle as much? Is it really this
Yes.
tough? I mean, I want to hear somebody else's story, and I want to hear if they've had to go through everything we have.
Yes.
And sure enough, almost every band has a story like ours.
Right.
Like Tom Petty, Chicago, Grand Funk. I mean, it's like every band that I've seen their story, I can't even believe they didn't quit. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking it made our story not even sound that bad. So,
And I think
I'm ready to feel sorry for myself here.
Right.
But now, God.
You said earlier that you and Jack kind of had this like there's no second option. Like people like
Yeah,
that don't have a backup plan. So they're
right.
not gonna stop. But people who have a backup plan, it's like, okay, if it doesn't work out, I'll try this.
Yeah. We wanted to eliminate the risk of having that kind of a thinking
Yep.
because we were so all in that we just weren't going to be denied.
Right.
I mean, literally, we used to, again, I've told the story before, but we used to pretend like we're doing interviews.
Right.
I mean, we were pretending in his parents' living room that we were playing the Forum in Los Angeles.
Right.
Kids with a dream, but we really believed it. I mean, we thought we could do that, and it ended up happening.
Yeah.
It's almost like that law of attraction thing. It's like if you believe it,
Yep.
things can come your way eventually. You just
Yep.
gotta dream big and just kind of believe you're good enough to do that one day. And obviously the stars have to line up and things have to go your way a little bit, but we worked real hard. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't like, we sent in a demo tape and just hope for a response one day. I mean,
Yeah.
we were out there hunting this thing down and going to shoot it or something. You know what I mean? I mean, we were like relentless, but, because the reason we played so much is because we thought it would give us a better chance to get lucky.
Right.
Just maybe somebody will be in the crowd that can help us one night. Just that one guy that can do something for us and bring us up a couple notches,
Right.
And that happened. But we thought of that before it happened. But, that was our plan. And it actually materialized that somebody was in the crowd that could help us and did. And it's just, that's what I mean. It's kind of unbelievable that, you have these little goals and then it somehow happens. But I suppose you better be good that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The guy's here, but we're sucking.
Yeah.
They ain't playing so good.
Right. So once Bitten, goes platinum, you got Save All Your Love, Rock Me, Lady Red Light. And then What's, I mean, I gotta assume that you're like fucking momentum is on our side when you go in to record
Yeah,
Twice Shy.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
how was
yeah.
that process? Were you like more comfortable or was it like more pressure? Because we just had a platinum album, we gotta like replicate that.
Yeah, there was probably more pressure, but you know, felt we felt pretty good. I was going to the garage like every day writing. I was trying to come up with something, you know, and then we rehearse and it's kind of a group effort. And so, yeah, the follow up we did with Twice Shy, it was actually, we finished the record before once that song, Once Bitten, Twice Shy came into the mix.
Yeah.
Niven had brought that song to us and he said, "You guys should do this. It'd be amazing." You know, he loved the lyrics in the song,
Yeah.
so we thought it was okay. We thought, you know, we could put our own spin on this, and you know, we thought it was a cool song too. We thought the lyrics were badass. It was about being on the road, you
Yeah.
know, which we were total road dogs. We never went home,
Yeah.
and so, but we didn't know it was going to be the big song, like the single or whatever. It's
Right.
just that's what the record company wants. The album, you know, there's always a point where your album's done, the record company, all the, you know, business people come down and they stand around the control room while you roll the tape,
Yep.
and you're sitting there kind of looking at them, seeing how they're responding. Well, when Once Bitten, when that song came on, they all flipped out. They just thought it was the greatest thing ever. They responded the same way with Rock Me.
Yeah.
I remember them hearing that song and flipping out on that too. So so they picked that song and they're right. You know, it did what it did. It's just funny because I was telling somebody, if we needed a cover song, that wouldn't probably not be what we would have picked because it wasn't a hit. Nobody knew the song here in, I guess it was a marginal hit, like in the UK at one
For
point. It
Ian
was
Hunter.
some number. I
Yep.
never heard the song before, but it usually the idea is when you do a cover song, you find something that was a massive smash,
Right.
and then you make it your own.
Right.
You know, like the way Lenny Kravitz did American Woman. You
Yep.
know, he kind of did it his own way,
Yep.
but the hook's still there, and you know,
Yep.
so you're halfway home. The song's already been a big hit.
Yeah.
But you're not going to go out and find a song that's not a hit and try to make it one. Get me? So
Right.
it wasn't like we were desperate. Our album was done. We just threw that on there, and by chance, it ended up being the one that the record company felt they wanted to put the money behind
Sure.
and market that one. So
And you couldn't escape that song for months. I mean, it was
7 months.
everywhere.
7 months, and it went number one on MTV, which I don't know if people know this, but it's not because it was the best video. You know, they judge just like everybody is how much airplay is it getting, where is it at on the charts.
Right.
You know, okay, it's number 5 in Billboard. Okay, so I guess it's the number one video now.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really has to do with politics more than how great we look on camera.
But if you were a teenage boy, you did like the Once Bitten, Twice Shy video because there was a pre-Cherry Pie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, we had the girls in there, you know, and I guess it was a pretty cool video. You know, we went in this like warehouse, and I remember back then, if you see the video, I'm holding, it's, I guess you supposedly called a cell phone, but it's one of those big tankers, you know,
Yep.
like in Wall Street.
Yep.
When
I just watched
Michael
it today.
Douglas is on the beach, that big white thing. Yeah, that was it back then. So that was before the boom of the cell phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, great time. yeah, that was a cool time.
And that album goes double platinum. And I
Mm.
just I thought this is a good time to ask this because now you're getting real, you got a platinum album and maybe close to double platinum with Once Bitten. Now you're double platinum with Twice Shy. Is
Hmm.
there a point where like you're getting so successful? I gotta imagine everybody wants you to party with them. Was the drinking, had that always been an issue, or did it start, with success start getting
Oh
worse?
no, no, I didn't need success to drink. I was drinking all from teenager on. Not as bad when I was a teenager, but I was just kind of born with the seed, the compulsive seed. Kind of was a little bit shy. Uh, I don't think it really became a huge problem. Well, enough of a problem to where it really got my attention as far as, I'm not feeling good now from day to day. I'm starting to maybe not playing as good as I could at shows.
Right.
So in the very early 90s, um, I the band was going to intervene on me, and I knew they were going to intervene on me. So I initiated what I was going to say before they could even speak to me, and said, "Hey, I want to quit drinking. I've never done it before. I don't know how you go about this. What you go to rehabs or meetings or what. I've never like experienced all that." And so, anyways, I went to a rehab in Arizona. You know, listened attentively and everything, but
This is the mid
and
90s,
early 90s,
early 90s.
like about 91, I believe.
Sure.
I was like 30, little over 30 years old.
Yep.
So then I got out. I went straight to the Capitol parking lot because we had finished Hooked.
Yes.
Straight to the Capitol parking lot for a party. And I was in this place 30 days, and it's like, people don't understand. It's like when you just go out in the world straight into something, it was nerve wracking,
Totally.
because I always used a few beers to kind of get me through these little small groups and, things that make me a little bit nervous,
Yep.
And if I drink two or three beers, it's much easier to deal with.
Yep.
So I didn't have that now. So I'm scared to death. I'm on stage with Vivian Campbell and we're playing Red House and stuff, and I'm not comfortable at all. And we had the Ventures play at our party, and it was a release party. It was fun and everything, but I was nervous.
Sure.
So that was always really, I was just a beer drinker, I didn't roll out of bed and start drinking vodka in the morning or anything. I just always had a beer in my hand, but I got probably just close to as much pain as anybody for abusing it.
Yeah.
And so I just went on for years. Really, I mean, I was just removing the alcohol, but not working on myself at all, any kind of character defects or anything. I was just kind of taking the alcohol away for like 2 years,
Right.
and, but I would always, instead of calling it a slip, I was purposely trying to drink normal.
Yeah.
Like I go back and try. I was jealous of people that could do it. It just pissed me off to no end. Even to this day, it
Oh,
doesn't make me happy that people can just socially
yeah.
have a few beers and jolly ho. I just like, but and that's because of my abuse of drinking, to where when I wake up in the morning, I'm not feeling that good.
Yeah.
So I would just have a couple beers just so I could escape the bad feeling. I didn't want to be drunk, really. I just didn't want to feel bad.
Right.
But the normal guy gets up in the morning and, damn, I got a headache, man. Dude, where's my aspirin? He's not going to go to the refrigerator and grab a beer. You know what I mean? But I went straight for the beer because me and Jack used to make a joke. We go, God, isn't that funny how beer cures everything? you know, so so I just went on like that for years, and then in 2008, that's my sobriety date. I called my wife. I was in Utah, and I just said, I told her I drank. It was like the first time I think I've ever been honest about drinking.
Sure.
I called her and told her I was drinking. In the past, I always say she, could hear funny. My voice sounds a little funny on the phone. Think you've been drinking? No, I haven't been drinking, but I had,
Yeah.
lie about it. And so I was actually honest right out of the gate. I drank. I went to the gas station down the street from the hotel and got 240s. You know?
Yeah.
And so, but I go when I get home this time. I've said it before, but when I get home this time, I'm gonna go head first into the fellowship group and listen to these guys with tons of sobriety and do everything they say. I'm taking full direction. Because before the saying is you have one foot in the door and one out.
Yep.
It's like you're attending meetings, you're going to your little fellowships, but you're not fully committed. I was a clock watcher. I couldn't wait till this is over with,
Yep.
but I was attending. But there was one thing I really liked, even when I had one foot in the door, and that was hearing people share.
Yep.
Because they were literally telling my story over and over again. And that kind of stuck with me a little bit. I go, yeah, I really am an alcoholic. I realized it. And so when I did it for real, I really fully committed and started to change things about myself, tried to work on my fears, which I've done. I've pretty much escaped all that now, just from exercises and working with people and my character defects. I just tried to become a better person.
Yep.
Working with other alcoholics. I've been doing that 12 years on a daily basis. Worked with, almost 200 people probably.
Yeah.
And send everybody daily meditation, prayers, and we all celebrate little milestones and stuff. And I just reached out and just offered my encouragement, sober friendship, and support to anybody suffering, just on social media, and got a hold of the first guy, worked with him a little bit, and he had success.
Right.
It was literally that simple. It was like I saw success, and I go, man, this is cool. I'm gonna keep reaching out and just offering. I just thought, because like I said, I wanted to become a better person, somebody who's contributing something. Because I don't know, just something about having some contribution to humanity. It's just a good thing, and it makes you feel really good to see somebody who's pretty sick get better.
Yep.
So I kind of became really into that. I was really digging. Then I noticed there were some other people in the industry, like Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney and Joe Walsh, and I've talked to Joe Walsh about it, and he reaches a lot more people because he's a couple notches above where I'm at, but I still enjoy. I've seen a lot of success to where people get a lot back.
Yeah.
They actually get well and they sustain years. They actually stick with it and get kids back and wife back, and things really start going their way, start rolling the way they should, and so that's been, being a sober advocate it's been a joy. And it's also really helped me improve myself. All those things, just being a dry drunk in the past and just removing alcohol, you're just pretty much a walking time bomb. It's like you know you're gonna drink, you just don't know when. You know,
Yeah.
to where I'm more. I got a good program that I really stay true to one day at a time.
Yep.
Try to be helpful.
You mentioned that the first time you were going into treatment was right around 91, the Hooked album. And
Yeah.
that album went gold, which, nowadays people would, give their right nut to go gold. You had a hit with
Yeah.
Call It Rock and Roll, but was it, can you just, I mean, was it like, oh shit, here comes this new style of music and suddenly now we're not going platinum? Was it disappointing?
Yeah.
Or were you like, hey, it's okay, it happens to everybody? I mean,
Um, it was a little bit disappointing, but also when I heard Nirvana for the first time and I saw that video, I it was like the most refreshing, badass thing I'd seen up to that point. Just to see these guys out there, wearing flannel shirts like they don't care, and they had melody, you know. It was very raw, very jangly on the guitars, and badass drummer. Um, but I liked it. They had dynamics. It was really cool, and it was the '80s thing was getting a hair watered down toward the end, getting predictable.
yep,
It was still great, but it was a refreshing thing. And we didn't change anything about the way we did things. We were playing mid-sized venues,
right,
maybe through the '90s. We went down to like 5,000 and 6,000 seaters
sure,
for a while, and then even played smaller venues than that.
right,
But we didn't stop how we make music, the stuff we write. We still wrote off the top of our head and the best song to make it. We never pre-planned anything before a record on what type of record do you want to make. We write about 20 some songs and then the best 10 or 12 make it. And
right,
and then we title the record then. We don't say, what do you want to call the next one?
yeah.
We titled the album after, it could be from a song or, just an idea once we get out the collecting of songs together. But so pretty much kind of like my sobriety, I keep it simple and
Right,
keep the band stuff simple
right,
too. It's the
right.
best way, confusing yourself.
You put out a great album in '92. I think a lot of great white fans universally talk about Psycho City, even though it didn't go gold. I think it sold a few 100,000 copies,
Yeah.
but that album is kind of universally loved among great white fans.
Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine said it's the best thing we ever put out.
Right.
Who's kind of my little ear. I always brought him music. His name's Jimmy. He's married to my cousin actually, but I always brought him music, and I couldn't believe he could pick the singles. This guy was like the master single picker, and I swear he could not. If you ever heard him like hum or sing anything, it's way out of key. He's tone deaf to his core. This guy is so tone deaf, it's not even funny. So I even asked him, I go, what are you judging? How can you do that? Pick the singer. I mean, I didn't know if he's judging from the drum beat. No, he goes, I don't know. I could just tell or something.
Right.
So whatever. Obviously, sometimes it's kind of obvious what
Sure.
the best song is, maybe, but it's pretty cool he could do that. But he told me not long ago, a couple months ago, he said, I went back and listened to Psycho City. He goes, dude, that album's badass, man. That's a good record. Yeah, it's probably a little bit of timing because I felt like even later in the '90s when we did the album up at Jack Blade's house, his ranch, that album Can't Get There From Here. That was
Yes.
a really good. That was a great record, and just didn't have the marketing dollars, didn't have all the stuff that we had.
You get there was a semi hit, and in 1999, for, a band that's associated with the 80s. I mean, Rolling Stone, I remember hearing that
Oh
on
yeah,
the radio.
Rolling Stone was on the radio in Detroit, and yeah, yeah. So I mean, it just, even though the song was doing good at the radio, it didn't generate into like record sales like in the old
Right.
days. But
Sure.
which is fine with us. You know, um, Even in our heyday, when obviously it's great when you're selling millions of records, but I always wanted the feedback more than anything else. Like, selling millions. I mean, it's hard to say I don't love that, but I do, and it's good to get paid, you know. But I was always more curious what people are gonna think when they hear the music. It's like almost like I want to see everybody and see their reaction, So that out of the gate, that was more my concern than any dollars and cents or how many records are we going to sell. I I would take it to all my friends and make them give me some feedback.
Right. Right.
That was the most important. Even in our heyday, today, same thing. If I go make a demo at a friend's, I play it for a few people. Say, what
Sure.
do you think? Do you think this song has a chance? I'm always curious because it's hard to stand away from your own music and go, yeah, this is the one I'm going with, or what. I like to hear someone that's standing away from it and tell me what they're hearing. You know.
And not just somebody who's going to kiss your ass and just tell you everything
Yeah,
you do is
none
great.
of my friends do that.
Right.
I to this day, all the friends I've had before we had any kind of success or whatever you want to call it, that everybody, it's not a big deal. Nobody cares.
Right. Um, so in '99, you do Can't Get There From Here, and
Yeah.
I think you guys after Psycho City is when you got dropped by a major label, right? Because they put out that '86 to '92. Was that when you got dropped by Capitol?
No, we didn't get dropped. What happened was the guy who when we left EMI America, there was a guy called Gary Gersh,
Yep.
who was the main guy at the label. We heard he was going to become the president of Capitol Records.
Sure.
So we knew we were going to be on the chopping block because after he passes on us and just doesn't want anything to do with us, and then we go sell millions of records, I don't think he's too happy, right?
Sure.
So what we did was we parted ways with Capitol, and they gave us a lot of money.
Sure. Okay.
We took like a buyout kind of thing,
Okay.
and so we did that, and then we started going to different labels. I think we were on a label called Zoo, who had some bands like the Baby Animals or something.
Sure.
Who was a great band. I mean, even though they never.
Susie
You ever
DeMarchi,
heard
their
them?
singer, was
Dude, that was a good. They had a really good album, man. I forget what it's called. Something about the world going round, and
yes.
I don't know what that album was called, but the production was badass.
Yeah.
Actually, their producer came out, and we wanted to check him out and see what he'd sound like doing a couple songs.
Yeah.
And his mixes didn't really. I mean, we probably could have gave him a little more of a chance, but
Sure.
we didn't really like the mixes that much with our stuff. But whatever. But yeah. So we were on that label, and now you're talking about a different time,
Yeah.
to where our music really, we still had our hardcore fans. They still show up even today, So we had the loyal fan base, but as far as the days of selling tons of records were going away,
Right.
along with the record stores.
Yep.
I mean, people are now. It's like it went from 8-track tapes to albums to cassettes, to CDs to like, I don't know, like downloading,
Yep.
it's almost pointless to do a photo shoot anymore because it's just going to be downloaded.
Sure.
But we don't even care. We just want to get the music to the people. We still like to make new music, and we're going to. We're making plans, and just to get feedback. We want to know what you think.
Yeah.
We want to put out like a song in a video and say, what's up? Do you dig it or what?
Yeah. And
We're
that's
still
kind
here
of
a week in.
that seems like the future is more singles instead of full-length albums.
I think so. We don't want to bombard people with 15 songs with the way the world is today.
Yeah.
I'd rather give them one or two at a time, or even one at a time, and then later on give them the whole batch. But that way, the song, the video, that gets their attention. I dig this new Great White song. They're not all over the place. Especially with the downloads, it's not like in the past where you go to the record store, you get the album, and you sit there all day listening to both sides. Now they download a couple songs from these guys and a couple from those guys, and it's more song driven today than it was. Sitting there listening to physical graffiti for 10 hours.
In 2000, you guys decided to take a break, right? And didn't you did you did a band project, I think called Train
Yeah.
Station?
Yeah,
And a solo record?
I left the band, and Jack went solo.
Yep.
And I wanted to do a solo album, but I started writing with this guy, Todd Griffin. And he sang so good while I was writing the songs. I started out, I was singing, but then he started singing, and I'm going, God, I can't sing the way you sing. I think I'll just make this a band project.
Right.
So then we were recording a demo, and I met Dickie Sims. He was in the studio doing some keyboard work on some other band. And I asked him if he would jam with us. I'll throw him a couple hundred or something.
Yeah.
And so we jammed with Dickie Sims, and he ended up doing our whole record and, playing live with us and stuff. And, he was in Clapton all those years. And he has that sound. If you ever Shot the Sheriff or Cocaine, that's all Dickie, man. He had those big cabinets, those Leslie cabinets. Yeah. And God, he could do all this trippy shit, man. He was badass. And it was funny because we had this song, right? And I was going to show it to him. And his friend that was next to him goes, "Oh, don't worry, just count it up. You don't need to show him anything." What? Who is this guy? And right. So we did. We counted it up, and he comes in and launched in like he'd played it before.
Right.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. It was a unique band, a really good band, and we went in and made a record. It's a pretty darn good record. Didn't get a record deal. I'd gone to Geffen, and I knew Tom Wally, but he said, "Mark, this is just the wrong label for this music." But another A&R guy there had flipped out in his office and said it was the greatest ever. So I'm thinking, God, we have a chance. But he went to Tom Wally, and then Tom Wally said, "This isn't the type stuff that we've signed." He goes, "You need to go to Atlantic and play it for those guys."
Right.
Anyway, so nothing really happened. And then I did make a solo album in 2005 where I sang, and man, that's a pain in the butt. I'm not, singing. What happened was I met this guy called Bob Tucker, right? Well, I met his wife at this award event in LA. Really hit it off with his wife. She was like, she had played piano. She actually jammed with Hendrix before. she jammed with John Lennon at some point, New York, doing something, and and he had Grammys from his work with the Temptations and all this stuff. So I'm just kind of making a connection with this chick, talking a little bit about music, but more like, a nice, when you meet somebody and it's like a good vibe, you're vibrating a certain way, like you just feel a little bit of a connection.
Yep.
So she goes, my husband has a studio at his house. We should write a song one day. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So that got me to thinking, I go, maybe he could do our solo album, and I could record at his house. So I'd gone over there and we wrote a song together called I'm the Man. And it was her music. And I kind of came up with lyrics and melody, and I sang the song. We ended up putting it on the record. It's kind of like almost like a country type ballad.
Sure.
But it was pretty neat. And anyway, so we ended up, I got this bass player that played drums with Tower of Power for 5 years. But he's one of these dudes that can do it all. He became a bass player and just stuck with that.
Yeah.
He played fretless, but he didn't make it sound fretless all the time.
Yeah.
He didn't abuse the sliding and all that.
Right.
So he was badass. And he goes, Mark, he goes, your music, he goes, I know the perfect drummer. He goes, and who am I to deny a dude that was in Tower of Power for 5 years? Like, okay, you pick my drummer. I'm sure it's going to work out. And
right.
And he got this guy that won the Buddy Rich contest 2 years in a row or something. It's totally unknown, right? So we go to their studio's a home studio, but it's like state of the art. I mean, big, huge board and all the outboard gear and all that. It takes me about probably 2.5 weeks to do this record. And so then Bob, the award-winning Temptations guy, he mixes the first song, and it's flipping terrible. I can't believe it. It's so bad. I can't. I'm saying things like, is that the drum sound? Like, that's all. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was so bad. And I'm talking to the bass player, and he goes, I know this black dude that's badass. He does all these punk rock records from New York. They just send him the files, and the guy's a monster. Just let him get the music out of the studio and let him mix a song. So I went there. This guy that does the punk records, he mixed a song in like 4 hours, and it was so killer. I couldn't even believe it. I go, okay, we got our answer now.
Yeah.
So this random dude mixed the album. And it was okay. I got a little help with my vocals. I brought in a guy named Mick Adams from way back in the day. He was in a band called Yankee Rose that was a local band. Now he's out doing this Rolling Stones tribute thing. He kind of helped my vocals by doing harmonies every once in a while, just real close kind of harmonies. And I had background vocals. And Bob Tucker got this chick named Patty Brooks that was in like a Supremes kind of band, like back in the 70s, like, the 5 singers out there doing that. Yeah. Patty Brooks was badass.
Yeah.
And she did a couple of the songs, some backgrounds. We had 3 parts, and she really, so much power, and, it's black chick, badass.
Yeah.
So that helped my vocal a little bit, but, I have a limited range. I'm like, right there with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Hendrix.
Right.
They might even sing a little higher than me. I don't know, but it's very difficult because this isn't a muscle that I work on. I've always sang background vocals, but I never like sang every day and
sure.
songs. It's really a pain in the butt.
Sure. So that was 2005 that you did that solo album, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to go through, all the details of Rhode Island and the station nightclub.
Oh,
It's been documented, but
right.
I did want to ask, like, because we got into your addiction. Was that something? And not that you can speak for Jack Russell, but
Hmm.
was the addiction? I gotta imagine that something that difficult must, send your mind spiraling. And did that
Yeah.
hurt the alcoholism? And could you just talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit?
Well, like I said, we had separated and we went off and did our solo projects and
Yep.
this, that, which mine turned out to be a band project. Jack was a solo tour and type thing. So his manager had called me and I just played 12 shows up north with Johnny Highland, who's a Nashville guitar player.
Sure.
Killer. This dude is, oh my God. He plays on so many records in Nashville, it'd blow your mind, but he can do it all, pedal steel, banjo, the guy's just, he's just insane. But
Yep.
anyway, so I had this downtime and the manager called me and said that his solo tour wasn't doing very good attendance. So I said I could go out for 4 weeks and maybe it would help it if they could do some Great White songs
Yeah.
because they were doing all his record,
Okay.
and he had his merchandise, his CD, and their backdrop was a picture of his eyes, and
Yep.
it was called the For You tour.
That's right.
And so I went out there, and what they did was they did half his solo and just a little less than half for Great White material.
Sure.
And they thought maybe my presence would help, a little bit with the attendance. And anyways, yeah. As
Was it
far as
called Jack Russell's Great White at that time, or was it?
no, it was just called Jack Russell.
Okay.
But then after I came out, he started calling it that.
Okay.
I don't even know when they changed that exactly, but
Sure.
all of a sudden it was Jack Russell's Great White. So but anyways, yeah, after the accident, it was the worst thing to witness. But all I did, I went and spoke with pastors and spoke with a few people, but it didn't really contribute to my drinking. I was just an alcoholic no matter what. I didn't need any reason to change anything.
Yep.
It was upsetting to witness that, but
Sure.
like I said, I was born with the seed, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. My dad was an alcoholic, kind of a functioning one.
Yep.
Never missed a day of work, never hit my mom. He's kind of like this happy drunk guy. I remember he had a sales job and it used to rattle under his seats in his car. He'd have vodka bottles under there and all these Banaka everywhere. Remember the spray
Yep.
stuff? So, because he was doing sales on the road, and so
Sure.
he couldn't. So he's just sipping on that vodka all the time. But the last 26 years of his life, he was sober.
Oh, okay.
So he actually finally got it and stopped. But luckily for me, I haven't had a lot of any physical damage from alcohol. I think due because I really didn't drink hard alcohol very often. I mean, occasionally, just goofing around. And yeah, give me that Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like a hard alcohol. I was a beer drinker, which might have helped me a little bit as far as doing any kind of organ damage or anything.
Did you, so you never, I mean, you didn't even, did you experiment with drugs? And if you don't want to, but like cocaine must
Yeah.
have been all around.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I never like really went out and bought it or anything, but it was always around. But it really wasn't my drug of choice. Like I didn't like. I could see how it could be addicting, but for some reason I just didn't really get the bug. The only reason I sort of liked it was because I could drink more. You get that mixture deal going on, and all that shit.
Yep.
But yeah, it was around or whatever. I could see how people could, probably get addicted to it. But it was some people would get addicted, you know, but it was more of a social thing in
Sure.
the 80s that just, if somebody threw out a line, you would go, oh, he has drugs, like, and freak out. It would be like totally normal. Like.
Yeah.
So
So
we
you
even had the MTV people were doing it. It was
right,
this is just like having a beer almost. It was
right.
like no big deal.
Was there you said you got sober in 2008 and I know we'll
Yeah.
finish up with it, but was there a I did something crazy, stupid, I need to get sober, or was it just you were sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Oh yeah. No, it was just I failed so many times trying to drink normal. I just finally just said enough is enough. I just it wasn't working for me anymore. I needed to change something. And it was just a wake up call. But I had been dabbling in meetings and been around people, that were alcoholics, and I knew I was one. I was just trying to defy the logic of,
Yep.
Once you're an alcoholic, there's no escaping it.
Yep.
I was really trying to be a normal drinker. It's just I couldn't do it.
Right.
And so I finally gave in, and I knew I needed to change something. I didn't look very good. When you're drinking all the time,
You're
you
puffy
get
and
bloated. Yeah, the puffiness, and
yeah,
you don't feel that good. I was I was chasing normal, I call it, because I was, like I said, I didn't want to be out of my mind at noon every day. I
right.
didn't want to be drunk off my ass. I
Yeah.
just didn't want to feel bad. So I was just trying to always get to the normal. I just wanted to feel normal
Yeah.
to where all I had to do was just not do any of that. And I just normal all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really crazy that it took me so long. Really, I should have, 30 years sobriety right now. But I
Right.
was so jealous, literally, that's my excuse for it taking so long. I could not believe that people could drink normal. But I'm really glad that I went through all that and you know and got a handle, and I got more than 16 years now, and
Right.
and everything's better in my life. It's just
Totally.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Totally.
how difficult it is to be an alcoholic. It is a lot of work, man. I mean, it's like I should be getting paychecks. It's so difficult. I mean, it's like God, man, really
Um,
tough.
uh, so I know like around 2010, Jack Russell's starting to struggle. He had some health problems. Terry Elu comes in, even Jani Lane, and I'm hoping to get you to share because I've done numerous videos on Jani Lane. I met him so many
Ah,
times back in the day, drank
yeah,
with him multiple times. I did a
yeah.
video on the channel because I told you that I was an alcoholic. It seemed like I really related to his downfall because his lyrics kept getting darker and darker in the 90s.
Ah,
Um,
I didn't know
so
that.
and I had seen so many shows, but Jack starts struggling, and Jack, rest in peace. But was there what was that like seeing Jack struggle? And was there ever, did it come down to shit, dude? What was there ever that? I mean, I'm sure there was, but that conversation, like, man,
Not really.
no,
No,
okay,
there was never like a thing where we just had enough or any kind of stuff like that. He just kind of shut down.
sure,
He was literally falling down at the shows, and he couldn't go on anymore.
yep,
So he actually stopped and had to go home, and we finished two shows with just us singing. Believe it or not,
sure,
it was unbelievable.
sure,
We did two shows with Firehouse, I believe it was, and I was singing like Face the Day, and Michael was doing Rock Me, and the bass player was singing On Your Knees. I mean, we were really winging it. I did Once Bitten, Twice Shy, and I had 7 pieces of paper on the ground reading the lyrics. I can't believe I didn't know the lyrics to Once Bitten, Twice Shy. But anyways, so yeah, the idea was to have him go get well, you know, get clean, and come back and be the badass that he people who know him for.
Yep.
He's known for. And then he he really struggled, and that happens. I've never taken that personal or anything. It just, some people have a harder time, and it caused him some physical stuff, and so he made another band, and went through some lawsuit stuff. But our whole career, we'd been like, I mean, we were such blood brothers. I mean, we were like connected in everywhere. Our parents, I mean, we were close. This is family.
Yep.
So really, the music became really secondary. It was more about health and addiction, and that really kind of separated us, and it just never got mended. And then unfortunately he passed away.
Yep.
I made a dedication to him at a show, just so people could show him some love and prayers. And then got to talk to Eddie Trunk. I did the Eddie Trunk show, me and Michael, so we could share some nice stories about him, and some of the good times, like, and what a workhorse he was in the studio, and how he just went in there and sang perfect all the time, and a joy to be around. The dude was funny. He was high energy. Everybody loved Jack, all the fans especially. And so we've never, I'm not kidding you, and it sounds impossible, but I've said it before, but I don't think we got more than 2 arguments our entire career together. We literally never fought about anything. There was nothing to fight over. Right. It was just always joyful. So most bands break up because they just hate each other. They can't take it anymore.
Right.
But with us, it was just, and I'm an alcoholic, and he's got his drugs of choice that he struggled with, and I was able to outrun it and get well, but and get into recovery. But it's different for different people. It's a very tough thing to make that first step, and that's part of the reason that I've reached out, because I know there's people out there that are kind of suffering, and they want to get sober, but they just don't take that first step. They don't. And sometimes they don't need, because I'm not doing anything. All I'm doing is offering my friendship and support and encouragement, and sharing my story, just letting them know how I did it. Yep. And maybe it can, there's been a few occasions where they're fans.
Yeah.
But they're struggling and they've lost a lot. Yep. And so maybe at first, maybe because they're fans a little bit, and they might look up to me a little bit and go, look at what he's got. He's sober. That's really cool. And if that's what inspires them at first, obviously, because of what I do for a living, that can't be your sole way to get well. Right. I mean, I appreciate the fansmanship and all that, but it's when I get one-on-one with anyone, I explain exactly how I did it. Yep. And I'm just sharing my story. I'm not saying that's how they have to do it, but I'm just saying that this worked for me, and nothing else ever worked before. And I think, maybe you can take a couple of things and maybe that'll help you. And I've seen a lot of success over the years. It's just been wonderful. I'm sharing like 11 years with a guy, 8 years, 5 years, 90 days. I mean, there's a lot going on here that's been positive.
In 2008, did you go to treatment, or I was like, what you said you called your wife and you're like, I'm done. So what was
Yeah.
the immediate process, in the next month or two that
No,
helped you?
no. I In 2006, I went to Betty Ford and went out and just drank like immediately.
Right.
It's you know, I wasn't ready. I
Mhm.
wasn't ready. In 2008, I was ready to
Okay.
go for real. I'd never gone for real in the past. I've always semi gone, like that, one foot in the door, one out. I'm not. I committed fully. I was willing to listen, take direction, and I wanted to be sober more than anything. So that's really what you need. I can't, nobody, they might as well not call me if they don't want to get sober. You know, I mean, you really have to want, you have to want a life change. And I like to reiterate that I'm talking about problem cases. People where their drug of choice, whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever, is affecting their life in a negative way. They're losing relationships. Their
Yep.
kids can't stand to look at them hurting themselves, or they're losing a lot, losing their job, losing, those are the people I'm trying to reach, and maybe they're physically suffering too.
Right.
So, if I can, you know and I also judge this from my own experience. Like I said, even though I wasn't fully committed in the beginning, I really enjoyed the sharing, you know, hearing people's stories. I loved to listen to that. So that became something that I was thinking. I hope my sharing might inspire a newcomer, and maybe at least get them going toward the light and maybe a sober path they can begin on, and hopefully, you know, get it together and have good things start to happen for them. And.
I went to I went to treatment in 2004 at the Veterans Hospital. So I was the Iraq vet, and there were six Vietnam vets and one World War II vet. And when I got done, people would ask me, "What did you learn?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't really know what I learned in treatment, but listening to the stories of those guys just
Yeah.
impacted me more than anything." They're losing everything and becoming homeless and losing
Oh yeah.
jobs, and these older veterans telling me don't follow my path. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I gained out of that. So you telling your
That's
story, I'm sure people are grasping onto that and it gives them hope.
See, normal people don't understand why, the thinking is, why don't you just quit, man? You
Yeah.
got no self will, but
Yeah.
it's not that. It is a disease in that regard that needs a lot of attention, and it takes work, and but once you can get going and just make sure you just stick with the day you're in, just
Yep.
roll out of bed, maybe make your bed, say a prayer, and just pray for another day of sobriety. Just do it one day at a time, because that's been something I've held on to for dear life, is this one day at a time thinking. That way I don't have to never drink again, or, you know,
Yeah.
or I'm done. Yeah, I might be done today, but that's all I'm going to worry about. I don't care about tomorrow's, yesterday's. Not, it's all about today, because it makes, you got to make it easier, and you got to make it simple on yourself. Just keep it stupid simple, man.
Yep.
You
Could,
know,
could you just briefly talk about the period with Jani Lane, and because
Yeah.
obviously you knew he was struggling. It had been pretty well documented before he did those shows, and from everything I've heard, he was sober during those shows. But could you just tell us maybe a little bit about your relationship and
Yeah.
yes, please.
Yeah. I worked with Jani Lane, and I sent him daily meditation and prayer. He used to give me feedback on a daily basis. He came out with this for 10 shows he did, and was dead sober, and we spoke a lot about it. He told me he wanted to be sober than any more than anything in the earth. And 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 I go, what is it? Because when I work with newcomers, I always try to identify their triggers. I want to know what is it that we can work on. You know, do you drink when you get really mad? You know, tell me some of the things that make you kind of drink. And Jani's biggest thing was downtime. When things stop, you know, that's when he kind of doesn't know what to do with himself. You know, maybe the voices start hitting him. He starts to get that town planner thought, you know, and and so that was it. So I go, well, we got to keep busy, man. And but when the words that stuck with me was when he said that he wanted to be sober more than anything, more than anything. And people got to realize we're selfish. Alcoholics are selfish. We think we're just hurting ourselves. You know, especially when we're in our disease, we don't think about the people we're hurting. We go, what do you mean, man? I'm doing this to myself. How can I'm not hurting you? This is me, you know. But you don't realize you're hurting because they love you.
Right.
And you know, so anyways, he got some downtime, and obviously it turned out fatal. But I went and spoke at his memorial. I wanted people to hear that, you know, that he wanted to be sober more than anything, and he didn't do what he did to hurt anybody. He's just, you know, it's a disease. It's just really unfortunate. He was a great guy, really super talented guy. Wrote songs like Satan. I mean, he's just badass. He's a really sweet guy too.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at this airport, and him and his wife were sitting outside, and it was like 9 a.m. Like the sun was like perfect, and he looked amazing, and his wife looked amazing. And I go, dude, the fans say they haven't heard you sound this good in 20 years. You know, the sun is shining. You look great. Your wife looks amazing. What's wrong with this? He's like, nothing, man. This is awesome, you know. So it was just it's one of those things. You never know when a slip is going to be fatal, you know.
Right. Right.
Just a shame. It's really a shame.
Yeah. So after that period, you guys get Terry Elu. Hopefully I pronounce Elu or Elus. You record a
Yeah.
couple albums with him. You go
Hmm.
on to Mitch Malloy. He's in the band for a couple years. Um,
Yeah.
and then we had Andrew Freeman was in the band for a little while, but now you got a guy named Brett Carlisle. So can
Yeah.
you give us a little bit of an update about what's going on with Great White right now, touring wise? And I know you talked about maybe releasing some or putting out some songs, hopefully some videos. So what's
Yeah.
going on right now?
Yeah. Well, we just got back. We just played St. Louis and North Dakota and Bismarck. We just got home last night. So we've been out playing shows. Brett is just such a good singer. I mean, it's the best we've had since Shaq. He delivers the songs absolutely killer. There's nothing in our catalog we can't do. There's
Right.
nothing out of his range. I mean, we're doing Stick It. We're doing like gonna get you. This stuff is all way high range stuff. He does it just easy. Um, so he's close to all the big songs. He does them just killer. The fans have really accepted him. Finally found the right guy. It's not easy getting somebody to sing in Jack's range
Sure.
and do it accurately.
So I'm
So
in
I've
North.
been,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah. Go ahead.
I'm in North Dakota, and so Mitch Malloy is kind of a hometown boy. Could you
I
just
heard of that.
Yeah, so he's from
Yeah.
Dickinson, and
Hmm.
so I'm in Fargo. But so anyway, so I've chatted with him. But what?
That,
And you don't
that's
have
what
to.
I've heard.
Yeah. So
I've
what?
heard that. He was from North Dakota. I remember we played there,
Yep.
and yeah, he's from there. Uh, Great guy. Forget really what happened. Nothing really happened bad. We're just kind of going in opposite ways a little
Sure.
bit. Nothing, no huge arguments or anything.
Sure.
We decided to be best, so we just tried something different. And he does a lot of projects. I mean, he's
Yeah.
doing this Van Halen tribute. He has a solo career.
Yep.
So it wasn't that big of a deal. And with Andrew, it was just that he was so committed to his own band that
Sure.
we didn't want to have to get a different singer every time he couldn't play with us.
Right.
So
Right.
that wasn't like a big personal thing either. Man, we thought he was great. He's a good guy, a good dad, and everything. He had his kid out and
Yeah.
all this stuff, so he was cool. But when Brett set in and just absolutely destroyed, he just killed it in Vegas. We just said, man, this is cool. This guy can, and we've been recording tons of demos with him, and
Okay.
he just sounds so good on new material. That's why I want people to hear our new stuff with him on it.
So when might we hear something?
Hopefully we're talking about April 6th through the 11th. We're gonna get these 3 songs really tight, and then we're looking at studios right now.
Sure.
And so hopefully in the next few months we'll get a song and a video. We know a couple of people that can do killer videos, so we're looking at that. Something with a lot of imagery and something that moves good and
Sure.
fits the track. So
Awesome.
we want to come out with something really killer because let people know we're still we can still show up or whatever.
I've listened to I've watched some YouTube clips, and you're right. Brett Carlisle can freaking sing all that shit unbelievably well.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he paid the most attention when we have somebody. We checked out 2 other guys, and he just, we just stripped the vocals off a live tape, and just had 3 different people put their vocals on. And he was the one that, gave it the most attention. It sounded it sounded like he's singing it right.
Yep.
So. But I didn't even know he did that good the first show because his voice was low in my headphones. I didn't hassle telling the monitor guy to do this and that. A lot of times you're, go and turn this up and turn that down. I didn't even hassle it. I just played and just,
Yeah.
Whatever. So I didn't hear him. I didn't know he sounded as good as he did until I saw some of the YouTube videos. You sing and stick it like perfect. I just go, oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But although people were coming up to me after the show going, don't let that guy get away and all this stuff.
Right.
So yeah, he's worked out wonderfully and good family. He's an Alabama guy, he's a super kid, man. He's only 28, I think.
Oh, and he definitely looks, I mean, he looks like a rock star.
Yeah, and he's pretty humbled. You know, he's not overwhelmed by any moments or anything, but I know he's a grateful person. He digs this position. He likes going out and playing live, and he's just digging it, you know.
Is there any, like I kind of call this the era of the box set. All the bands that we loved in the 80s are putting out compilations. I mean, Great White needs, I mean, your guys' career is
Oh,
really calling for a
yeah,
box set.
yeah,
Is there any
yeah. We
talks
should do
about?
that. I know a couple of bands have done it. I know that we've spoken to our lawyer about getting the, you know, because we can get all the rights to our material now after like 35 years, supposedly legally.
Sure.
We just haven't done it. Maybe we're being a little lazy. But yeah, in fact, I know a guy that could do the box sets because, God, this guy that always masters our record, I know he did the box set for Chicago. You know, the guy just, so we have the people in line. We just got to do it. But
Sure.
yeah, that'd be cool to get some deep cuts in there, and
Yes.
you know, some of the stuff that the fans know about that never been like big radio songs or whatever. That
Is
could be
there
fun.
is there any unreleased stuff that you guys have laying around that could be either put in a box set or
There
something like that?
maybe, yeah. We'd have to go through the tapes, but yeah, I know there was in fact we did this one song in Japan that was killer, and I think we recorded that. Yeah, there's definitely some outtakes that we could throw down just to trip people. You know, even if it's not recorded, you know, super great, you know, something we could just throw in
Sure.
on
Yes.
maybe one of the CDs or, you know, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Doesn't need to be
Maybe
like,
put a bunch of stuff. It could even be like interviews, or, you know, maybe we could just have some, because I know the fans like to look at that.
absolutely.
You know, with me being a fan, I think I'm a pretty good judge of what a fan would like, because I always wonder, what is Billy Gibbons doing on the weekends when he don't have a show? You know,
Right?
I mean, you kind of like to hear him do an interview or something. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or, you know, what do these guys do? Do they drive through McDonald's like we do, or, you know, are they too cool for that? You know, so I know the fans like to see you away from the stage a little bit too. You know, just
Right.
just hanging out maybe.
And that's kind of how I want to finish up is what can you tell us what are you into when you're not doing Great White? I see you post a lot about your grandson. I think his name is Noah Jagger,
Yeah,
and he plays.
yeah.
So can you just give us a little
He's
bit
a
about
drummer.
your life outside of
Yeah,
this?
yeah. My yeah. You know, the way we play these days, we're not on a bus for years at a time. So I have more family time, and that's my grandson. You know, and tried to get him into guitar for a little bit, but he didn't have the patience. Then we started playing drums. He loved it immediately because of that. You hit a stick on something, it comes right back at you. There's something about that. Guitar is kind of a pain in the butt. I mean, you know,
Right.
you need a lot of patience. But today he's playing drums like killer, man. He's really playing well. He's done a couple recitals. Um, for his drum teacher's a real upper echelon drummer, and
Sure.
so he's improving all the time. He played on the Monster Cruise with the Shredders, and Kip Winger introduced him and everything. He was only 10. But anyways, yeah, so that's awesome. As far as hobbies, I love playing pool. I've been competing since the like late 80s.
Sure.
Forever. You know, I've been playing pool. I got a pool table. I train with, you know, professionals and stuff like that. Just so I take that kind of serious. But what else? Yeah, just playing with family. I like outdoor stuff, you know, fishing, camping, you
Sure.
know.
Sure.
But yeah, so, you know, there's things away from what we do that, you know, we like to give that some attention too, and give it some time.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm just loving my grandson, man. He's a real good kid, and improving all the time. He just comes over. We got a drum set here. I got a DW set here. I don't know
Sure.
if you could see
Oh,
it.
yep. There you go.
Yeah. So I jam with him, and so he comes over here, and he has a set at his mom's, but it has, because he has a little sister. She's just past one,
Right.
so she's a little one. So they put dampers on everything. So
Right.
it's tickety tick. So he likes to come over here and bash them for real.
Right.
Uh, but Audie hooked him up with all the DW stuff. So we got, so yeah, it's all good, man.
All right. So, hey, we're Great White's still out playing shows constantly. You're writing. We're looking at maybe in April getting into the studio, hopefully getting some new music out there. Mark,
Yeah.
is there anything else that I
Um,
missed that you want
yeah,
to
as
promote?
far as keep up to date, just go to officialgreatwhite.com. It has our tour dates. They keep them up to date. There's a lot that aren't announced yet because you kind of have to wait until they announce it, and then
Yep.
we can put it up.
Sure.
But until that, but yeah, shows are coming in, so that's all going good. And we have merchandise up on the website, and we're all on social media. I'm not hiding from nobody. So if anybody's out there, we talked about the alcohol and addiction and stuff. If anybody's in trouble, I'm always available to be a encouraging, sober friend, and I'm not hiding from nobody. You can get a hold of me on Facebook or, private message me or whatever. I'm on Instagram, on X.
Awesome.
So I'm not hard to find.
Hey, you've been an inspiration to me with you talking about your sobriety and being so open to helping others. So I appreciate that. And just as a fan of the band, it's been an honor, and you've shared so much. So thank you so much, Mark Kendall, for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
All right, brother. Hey,
Awesome.
if when stuff comes out, if you ever want to come on again and promote stuff, we'd love to have you back.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care, Mark.
Take care, man.